Imagine being transported back to the late 1990s, a time of great hope and excitement for tech startups. Companies were springing up left and right, fueled by the promise of the internet and the possibility of untold riches. But as the new millennium dawned, the bubble burst, and many of these companies went under, leaving a trail of broken dreams and lost investments. Despite the setbacks, a new wave of startups emerged, and among them were some of the pioneers of the Web 2.0 movement. These were companies that focused on user-generated content, building platforms that allowed people to share their thoughts, ideas, and creativity with the world. In 2006, author Jessica Livingston set out to document the stories of these early startups, talking to the founders of companies like Flickr and Blogger, as well as others that had been around since the days before the first Mac. Her conversations were casual, transcribed for a book that focused less on the dry details of dates and numbers and more on the human stories of triumphs and failures. Fast forward to today, and while the technology has advanced beyond what anyone could have imagined in 2006, the lessons of these early entrepreneurs still resonate. The stories they tell are a reminder that innovation and success are never guaranteed, and that the road to building a successful startup is paved with challenges and setbacks. In this video, you'll hear some of these stories firsthand. You'll learn about the surprising origins of companies like PayPal and Flickr, and discover why sometimes investor money isn't always the best option. You'll also find out how much Yahoo paid for a collection of website bookmarks back in 2005, and how that investment played out in the long run. So buckle up, and get ready to take a trip back in time to the early days of the internet. You might just find that the lessons of the past are more relevant than ever in shaping our future. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there was a young entrepreneur named Alex who had a brilliant idea for a startup. He was convinced that he had the perfect product to solve a common problem in the tech world. He spent countless hours developing and perfecting his idea, but when he launched his startup, it didn't seem to catch on. Frustrated and disappointed, Alex was ready to give up on his dream. But then he heard the story of Max Levchin and Peter Thiel, the co-founders of PayPal, who ended up with a completely different product than they started out with. This gave Alex a glimmer of hope. He realized that sometimes, success comes from being flexible and adaptable in the face of failure. So, he took a step back and reevaluated his product. He asked himself, what other problems can my idea solve? As he thought about it, Alex realized that his product could be repurposed to solve a different problem in the tech world. He pivoted his startup, and soon, it began to gain traction. Inspired by the story of Evan Williams and his co-founders, who created Blogger.com as a side project, Alex decided to experiment with different features and functionalities for his new product. He wasn't afraid to try new things and take risks, even if it meant deviating from his original vision. Eventually, Alex's startup took off, and he became a successful entrepreneur. He learned that success doesn't always come in the form of the product or idea you originally envisioned. Sometimes, it takes a willingness to pivot and adapt, to be flexible and open-minded in the face of failure. Chapter 2. In the late 1990s, Steve Perlman had an idea that would revolutionize the way we watch TV. He envisioned interactive television that would do more than just change channels. But when he pitched his idea to potential investors, they couldn't see its potential and turned him down. Perlman was a respected figure in Silicon Valley, having helped Apple develop the first Mac with a color display, but he faced a daunting problem. TVs didn't have interactive content, and there was no hardware for it, which meant that there was no proof that there was a market for it. Undeterred, Perlman persevered and, with the help of a few early investors, he started building his web TV product. It took a lot of work, but he was finally able to make it a reality. He made the TV interactive, enabling viewers to pause, rewind, and record their favorite programs. When web TV hit the market, it was an instant success. People were amazed at how easy it was to interact with their television, and the product generated $1.3 billion in revenue in just 8 years. Perlman proved that his innovative idea was not only viable but profitable. Meanwhile, in 1996, Sabir Bhatia and Jack Smith had a similar problem. They wanted to create a web-based email service that people could access from anywhere, but investors couldn't see the potential for success. They believed that email accounts were something you got from your employer, not something you accessed on the internet. Bhatia and Smith knew that they were onto something, though. They believed that there were people like them who wanted to access their email from any web browser. They persisted, and finally, they found an investor who believed in them enough to give them just enough money to get started. Hotmail was born, and it wasn't long before it was proving its worth. The service gained up to 5,000 new users every day, thanks to word of mouth and the clever idea of putting a link to the Hotmail site at the bottom of each email. By the end of their first year, they boasted 7 million subscribers, and Microsoft acquired them for $400 million. The stories of Web TV and Hotmail prove that having an innovative idea can make it difficult for people to see the potential for success. But with perseverance and determination, anything is possible. So, if you have an idea that you believe in, keep working at it, and who knows? You might just revolutionize the world. Chapter 3. In the bustling tech hub of Silicon Valley, everyone was always talking about the next big startup. There were always rumors of someone with a game-changing idea that was going to revolutionize the industry, but sometimes the most successful startups didn't begin with a brilliant idea at all. In fact, sometimes all it took was a good team. Joe Kraus was a prime example of this. He and 5 of his friends from Stanford University came together in 1993 to create a startup. The only problem was that they had no idea what kind of business they wanted to start. But Kraus was confident in his team's abilities, knowing that they were all intelligent and passionate people. He believed that it was only a matter of time before they found their way. It was during a casual brainstorming session at their favorite taco shop that they had their breakthrough. They realized that with so much information being published in digital formats, people would need a new way to search that information. Their initial focus was on digital encyclopedias, but they soon shifted their attention to the web. They developed a technology that could search massive databases and received $3 million in financing. Excite, their search tool, quickly became the primary search engine for the dominant browser of the time, Netscape. Arthur Van Hoff and his team at Sun Microsystems had a similar story. They were all involved in developing Sun's Java programming language but decided to put in $25,000 each and start their own business despite having no idea what it would be. Van Hoff knew that having a good team was more important than a good idea, as he had seen lousy ideas get funding before. He believed that the first idea was often scrapped in favor of a better one, and that's exactly what happened with his team. They quickly pivoted from one idea to another, eventually settling on a subscription-based software distribution model called Marimba. This model was groundbreaking at the time, as most software updates were not automatic, and it was challenging to ensure that everyone received updates at the same time. But Marimba solved this problem and became a huge success, especially for companies like Morgan Stanley with employees around the world. These stories prove that having a good team can be more important than having a good idea. With a team of passionate and intelligent people, it's only a matter of time before they come up with the perfect idea. So, if you're thinking of launching a startup, focus on building a strong team that can pivot quickly and run with the perfect idea when it presents itself. Chapter 4. Kate always had a passion for cooking, and she loved trying out new recipes. As she discovered new dishes and ingredients, she found it challenging to keep track of all the recipes she had tried and loved. Kate's bookmarks folder was overflowing with recipe links, and she often found herself scrolling through pages of links, looking for that one recipe she had tried before and wanted to make again. One day, as Kate was scrolling through her bookmarks folder, she remembered the story of deli.issio.us and how it had started as a personal project to solve a similar problem. Inspired, she decided to create her own online recipe collection using the same tagging system that deli.issio.us had used. Kate spent weeks working on her new website, tagging recipes with different categories like vegetarian, desserts, and weeknight dinners. She made sure the website was user-friendly and easy to navigate, and then she invited a few friends to try it out. To her surprise, her website quickly gained traction. Friends shared it with their friends, and before she knew it, Kate had thousands of visitors to her site. People loved the tagging system and how easy it was to find recipes that fit their dietary needs or preferences. As Kate's website grew in popularity, she realized that she had stumbled onto something big. She had created a solution to a problem that many people had, and her website was providing value to thousands of people. Kate started to think about how she could turn her personal project into a business. She reached out to investors, and after a few meetings, she was able to secure enough funding to hire a small team of developers and designers. They worked tirelessly to improve the website's functionality and user experience, adding features like a grocery list generator and meal planner. Within a few months, Kate's website had grown beyond her wildest dreams. She was featured in several food blogs and magazines, and her user base continued to grow. Eventually, she caught the eye of a major food media company, and they made her an offer to buy her website for millions of dollars. Kate's personal project had turned into a thriving business, all because she had identified a problem she faced and had the passion and drive to create a solution. Her story was a testament to the fact that personal projects can become hugely valuable if they solve a problem that many people face. Chapter 5. In the world of tech, there was an engineer named Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was a high schooler who was teaching himself how gadgets worked. He had a unique way of learning. He wouldn't just take things apart and put them back together again. He would take them apart and then figure out how to make them work with fewer parts. This way, they could not only be made more cheaply, but they could also be made more elegantly and with fewer chances of things going wrong. Wozniak's philosophy was all about doing more with less. He believed that a true entrepreneur finds a way to create something with whatever limited resources they have while still striving to make it better than whatever is currently being sold. This belief became the foundation of his work, even when he was working on the first Apple computers in his apartment. Simplicity was always at the heart of Apple, even in its earliest days. Wozniak's dedication to creating simple yet effective solutions continued to inspire others in the tech industry, including Philip Greenspun. Greenspun was the founder of the web design company Ars Digita, which he started in 1997. After creating a simple yet popular community site called Photo.net, he started getting requests from companies to help build their websites. However, he knew that the best solution wasn't going to be some complex tool that came with a 500-page user manual. Instead, Greenspun created a business that offered simple, quick, and clean design solutions. His websites didn't require the sort of fancy coding that took lots of time and created bugs. He was also trying to create a business that positioned programmers as problem solvers and not just human robots who kept quiet and wrote code all day. Ars Digita quickly grew, with an annual growth of around 500%. They worked for clients like Levi's and Hearst Publications. However, when Greenspun opened the door to venture capital, everything changed. All but one of the founders got squeezed out, with new leadership wanting to turn the startup into a slow and expensive company like IBM. In the end, Ars Digita collapsed, becoming one of the more well-known examples of what can go wrong when venture capital enters the picture. The lesson to be learned from the stories of Wozniak and Greenspun is that simpler is often better. The best solutions to problems are often simple and easy to use. It's important to remember this, especially in the fast-paced and ever-changing world of tech. As an entrepreneur, always strive to create something with whatever limited resources you have while still making it better than whatever is currently being sold. Chapter 6. Once upon a time, in a bustling city, there was a group of ambitious entrepreneurs who wanted to start their own tech company. They had a brilliant idea for a new social networking app that they believed would take the world by storm. They were determined to make it big, but they didn't want to give up control of their company to investors. They had heard horror stories about startups that had taken on too much investor money and lost control of their own businesses. They didn't want to make the same mistake. They knew that they needed to find other ways to generate revenue or stay cheap to avoid bringing in new investors. One member of the team, a young programmer named Mark, had heard about Philip Greenspun's struggles with investors. He knew that venture capital often comes with strings attached, and he didn't want to give up control of his startup. So he suggested that they take inspiration from Joel Spolsky and Fog Creek Software. Mark explained that Spolsky had founded his own software company and found a way to attract great programmers without taking on venture capital. He had created an environment that treated programmers well, with comfortable offices, first-class travel, and generous vacation time. He had also developed a useful piece of bug tracking software called FogBugs and raised the price to make it appear more valuable. The team was impressed with Spolsky's approach and decided to follow his lead. They knew that they needed to find a way to generate revenue without taking on too much investor money. They brainstormed different ideas, and eventually, they hit upon a solution. They decided to create a subscription-based model for their social networking app. Users would pay a small monthly fee to access the app's premium features. They also decided to keep their expenses low by working out of a shared office space and living frugally. At first, it was tough. They didn't have the same resources as some of their competitors, and they had to work hard to develop their app and attract users. But they persevered, and their hard work paid off. As the app gained popularity, they started to attract more users, and their revenue grew. They reinvested that revenue back into their company, hiring new developers and expanding their team. They didn't need to take on investor money, and they were able to maintain control of their own company. In the end, their startup became a huge success. They had created a thriving business, all without compromising their vision or their control. They had learned that too much investor money can hurt a startup, and that finding other ways to generate revenue or stay cheap is the key to success. Chapter 7. There was once a young entrepreneur named Lily who had an idea for a startup. She had a passion for cooking and wanted to create a platform for foodies to connect and share recipes. Excited about her idea, Lily quickly began building her platform without much thought about what her customers actually wanted. As she launched her platform, Lily found herself struggling to gain traction. The users that did sign up didn't seem to be sticking around for long. Frustrated and on the verge of giving up, Lily remembered the advice of Paul Graham: make something people want. She realized that she had never really taken the time to understand what her customers wanted and needed. So, she decided to conduct some market research and listen to the feedback of her users. Lily discovered that her users didn't just want a platform to share recipes, they also wanted a way to connect with other food lovers and learn new cooking techniques. Armed with this information, Lily went back to the drawing board and redesigned her platform to include social features and cooking tutorials. As Lily started to implement these changes, she noticed that her users were much more engaged and spent more time on her platform. She was thrilled to see that her new features were making a difference and that she was truly making something people wanted. But Lily's success didn't stop there. She also found that being honest with her users about her product was a powerful tool for winning their trust and loyalty. When Lily made claims about her platform, she backed them up with honest and transparent information. This helped her build a strong reputation as a trustworthy and reliable source for food enthusiasts. Lily's startup began to take off, and she was grateful for the advice of Paul Graham. By listening to her customers and being honest with them, she was able to create something that truly met their needs and desires. And as her platform continued to grow, Lily knew that she was on the right track to building a successful startup that would make a real impact on the world.